All right, welcome everyone. Today's video is going to be doing some stream test casting with the brand new 2022 Aldebaran BFS. I'm going to be casting a variety of stream lures and some short to mid-range casting. So if you want to see how that is, make sure you keep watching. Also subscribe if you want to see some bass content. I have a bass video that's going to be coming out shortly as well, throwing Ned rigs and all that stuff on a more traditional bass setup. All right, so to get started, the lure I'm using, this is the Duo Spearhead Ryuki 50S. It's a pretty standard trout minnow. If you've ever looked into BFS trout fishing at all, you probably came across this lure. 50 millimeters long and it's 4.5 grams. So it's gonna be right in that comfort range. And it's pretty good lure for me to get the reel calibrated. I did put some single hooks on there, so it makes it very slightly lighter. The rod I'm using, this is the Kawasaki Rhapsody. It's made by a company called Jackson. It's a 4'7" light powered. It's a telescopic rod. It's pretty smooth taper to it too for a telescopic rod. So I'm pretty excited to be able to get this lure, this rod out as well. All right, to start off with, I'll put the brakes on 4 out of a possible 6. And my tension knob has barely any side to side play. It's a little bit more difficult to get that setting because of those O-rings for the silent tune bearings, but you can still feel it a little bit. Or just do a nice gentle cast. That's pretty nice. That was very effortless and flat casting too. I'll wait to. I just had a thought comparing it to the Silver Creek, but I'll wait for a little bit. Okay, so a couple things I've noticed just off of my second cast. It casts very, very flat, and why that's important is, say there's some brush right here. Granted, this is pretty open river, but a lot of times there's brush where I'm fishing, especially if I'm fishing for brook trout and like a little bit more headwaters. I have to cast underneath obstacles a lot, and me being able to cast underneath obstacles like that very easy. Not only is there less line and less chance of it getting hung up, but the wind can affect your lure less, so your accuracy is actually increased from that. That is insane. And that's on brake setting 4. I know on the 2016 Aldebaran BFS, I always had my brakes, it seemed like on the lower settings, like, maybe around 2 I'd usually have it. And I'll kind of have to set it there, and I'd still be having to adjust my brakes quite a bit. Yeah, that's very, this rod's pretty sensitive too. I was used to fishing that custom glass rod that I built, so I was not used to having that amount of feedback. But the rod's been casting really nice too. It's very responsive, and it's not, I thought it would feel a little bit segmented because it's a telescopic rod, but it's actually been casting a lot like a 1 or 2 piece rod would. I'll try to do some shorter range casts. Okay. And then I'll go back to a long cast. Ooh. A little bit longer than I expected. So why that's important, a lot of times when you're stream fishing, you're gonna have a variety of short casts, and you're gonna have a mixed in with long casts. And if you have to adjust your brake dial a lot, what that can do, a lot of times that can cause you, you might not adjust the brake dial correctly, or you forget to adjust it when you have it, say on brake setting 2, doing some short casts. And then when you gotta take a long cast, because you see a fish surface or whatever the reason is, you go to cast and you have a big backlash because there's not enough braking. And I know that Shimano did redo the braking system, like the FTB braking system. They made some adjustments to it, and I can definitely tell it so far. I'm gonna be able to tell more of those differences with lighter lures. And that retrieve, that is so nice. The retrieve is very smooth. I think it's on par with the Gekkobigen. My Gekkobigen is very smooth. If anything, this is a little bit smoother. Oh, that is so nice. I should be changing the brake dial right now, but I feel I don't even need to. This is I would say in stock form, for this lure so far, it's better than the Silver Creek. It's gonna be really hard to make this reel better with an aftermarket spool. Like if there's an aftermarket spool like a Vail or Aurora lure or somebody makes a spool for this, it's gonna be insane. Yeah, it's been very consistent casting. I haven't had any sort of fluffing up on the spool at all. It's been very, very controlled. And the line I'm using on here, I'm using a monofilament line. It's made by Verivis. It's called Twitchmaster. Basically, how it's formulated is have a little bit less stretch. So when you're working minnow style lures, especially in current like this, you're gonna have less stretch, so you get more feedback with your lure. It also helps a little bit with hook sets as well. If a fish comes and surges in, your line's not gonna have too much give and you can sink those hooks in. All right, so now I'm gonna do a little accuracy test. Some of this is gonna have some user variables, but I'm gonna use that ice sheet that's right there as my reference point. So I'm gonna do some accuracy testing short range, a little bit mid range, a little bit longer range as far as for stream fishing, just to test the consistency and how variable those breaks can be. Okay. Forehand, the reel still feels nice too. Okay. I didn't feel like the thumbing helped, but I felt like I didn't need to thumb it. It felt like the brakes are still working very good. Okay. Again, it's all fairly thumb free. I haven't really tried to fine tune the brakes yet, but it's just been working fine. A little bit of ice in the guides, which that actually helps me be able to test the reel more. I may not be as accurate, but at least I know that the reel can control some of those variables. And a little bit further. Yeah, that's all without adjusting the brake dial. What I would have to do before with the 2016 Aldebaran BFS, I'd have to adjust the brake dial. I'd have to keep moving it if I wanted to fine tune to each. And if I go really far, it's all been fine. It's very consistent casting. I haven't had to, like, say have a loose brake setting short range. I haven't had to have a loose brake setting close and then have to really thumb it afterward. My lure got snagged up a little bit. It's still a minnow lure. This is the Rapala Ultralight Minnow 04. Technically it's a slow sinking lure, but how I have it modified with taking the split rings off and also that front hook and switching that to a single hook, it makes it pretty much a suspending lure. So it's decent to cast. It's not as easy as your traditional BFS or like, you know, your typical stream minnows, but so this will be a little bit of a test, especially with this wind, how it is. It'll be a good test to control the adaptability of the braking system. I'm going to keep my brakes still at 4 out of possible 6. Wind's coming from this way, so basically it's following down current. Ooh. That wind took that minnow quite a bit. It still feels really nice. I feel like I have to turn the brakes down slightly. All right, I'll have them on 3.5 out of a possible 6. Oh, that felt better with that little adjustment. Okay. And sometimes just switching up the lure as well. So a lure like this, when I snap my rod, the lure like darts real quick and then it just suspends or very, very, very slowly floats, kind of depending on the speed of the water and such. Yeah, that feels nice with this rod, being able to twitch lures like that. And this lure does not have any sort of like internal like weight transfer system, so it is, given the profile of the lure too, it is affected quite a bit by the wind. Okay. I am going to turn it down to 3. I'm basically going to keep turning the brakes down until I start the backlash. That still feels nice. I can feel that the line, it takes a little bit of thumbing, especially with the ice buildup on the guides, but I haven't had any, I mean, my line stack's been very, very smooth so far. I'm even trying to cast harder. I got one little fluff right there, and I was casting a little harder than I should. The rod handles this lure fine as well. Yeah, really, I mean, I will go down a little bit more. I like 2 point, I'll go to 2.5. See how much difference this brake dowel makes. Ooh, that's fast. There's quite a bit of difference that this brake dowel makes, but it still controls it very well. That's odd. Let me make sure I get ice out of my guides. Okay. That feels nice. I think it's a little bit faster than I normally would have, but I don't feel it's out of control by any means. That's nice. I can truly say if there's a certain lure that I can't cast, it's not because of the reel. It's got to be the rod. This is stock bearings too, which Shimano stock bearings are usually pretty good. Ooh, I hung on that one a little bit. That is nice. All right, I said I would go down until I backlash. Ooh, that's enough of a backlash. That's a lot of loose line, so I'm going to turn that back down, let some line out. It's like sleight of hand pro. If you ever played Call of Duty, I haven't played it in years, but there used to be a perk, reloading faster and everything. A lot of practice backlashing too helps. Yeah, but having that like at the 2 point, like just under 3, that was a really good setting for this minnow. And even that's with ice. Okay. I'm probably gonna put on a smaller jig now. I think just to test how that works. All right, so I have a small jig on now. It's a small ice fishing tungsten head with just a small little, I forget the brand, but some small generic grub body. A lot of times I like to use these for brook trout. I don't think this rod's really going to cast it that great, but I want to see if it can. It's very light. I think it's probably just over 1 gram. My brake setting is on 3. Let me make sure all my ice is out of my guides. The ice in the guides makes a much bigger problem the lighter your lure is. Okay. I had some backlash. I felt like the rod wasn't really flicking the lure out. It was definitely felt forced. I just gave myself a worse backlash. So I'm going to turn my brakes down. I'm going to do some pitching. I can turn my brakes down a little bit. And generally for me, I do like to turn my brakes down the lighter that my lure is. But depending, if you're trying to cast really far distance, like in a lake or something, you don't want to turn your brakes up higher than you normally do. I mean, that pitch is really nice. This is probably right around 1 gram, and it's pitching out there nice. It's not just casting or I'm not forcing anything. And the rod definitely is not helping all that much. It's nothing against the rod, it's just not rated that way. That's nice. Like, if I was fishing for brook trout, which is usually a little bit smaller creeks, I could come across like log jams or beaver dams or anything like that, and I'd be able to work those pockets really, really nice. Or like the sides of the stream with tag elder, pitching just like that, very, very nice. I'll try some short range pitching as well. Yeah, it feels really nice. That's very, very nice. I'm gonna have to use my Surinara Aries, that extra ultralight BFS rod that I use for brook trout. I'll use that with some lighter lures just to be able to really test the reel out. Well, I actually didn't backlash. I used a little tiny bit of thumb, and I was on brake setting 2.5. All right, I was saving this part to the end. I'm gonna take the old glove off. Tuck that in here. Palming with that brake dial. I couldn't really feel it with my glove on. All right, now let's see how this is. If I go from casting, I did have a little bit of a backlash there. It's out. Yeah, this is how I palm the reel. I kind of put my finger in front of the nose part of the reel. Yeah, it's not uncomfortable at all. I have like medium-sized hands, and I don't feel that even. I should probably clear some of this ice off. Okay, so now just transitioning into pitching, like from pitching to reeling. Yeah, I don't feel that brake dial. I think it was a bigger problem when I was doing my desktop, like sitting on unboxing the reel and putting your hand around it and reeling it in a house. It's a bigger deal than on the water. Yeah, I don't have any issues with that. All right, so as you saw, very solid performing. Most of my remarks are very good about this reel so far. It's only a limited testing, and I will be, if you're interested in more bass lures, I will be doing future videos on that. So make sure you comment what sort of lures you want to see. So the retrieve is something I didn't really talk about. Very, very smooth, especially going fighting the current with those minnow style lures. I felt very solid as well. Wasn't that hollow feeling of sometimes you get with magnesium framed reels. A lot of people on the Tackle Tour forums, there's a thread on there about the Aldebaran. Some people were worried about the brake knob kind of being abrasive or being uncomfortable. I didn't find it to be a hindrance at all, and I will be testing more, say, with the bass rod, so maybe it might have a factor there. The rod's very nice for twitching minnows. I mean, even like the Rapala lure or that Ryuki spearhead, they're both very responsive. Working that lure, and also the tip flexed enough that I can get short range casts with those lures as well. My Daiwa Silver Creek rod was a little stiff to be able to get short range casts, but those mid to long range trout casts were really good at that. So it's good that I'm able to get some short range casting with this rod. So if you want to see more content with either of these products, make sure you comment down below.